There are people trying very hard to forget you right now. They keep themselves busy all day. They laugh around other people. They pretend they have moved on peacefully. But when the night becomes quiet, your memory returns to them again. A random thought, a familiar place, a small memory they were trying so hard to escape. And suddenly, all the emotions they buried inside their heart begin rising again. And maybe you are feeling this too. Maybe there is someone you tried to let go of, but no matter how much time passes, their presence still lives somewhere deep inside your soul. You keep asking yourself, why can't I fully forget them? Why does this connection still feel alive? Why does Allah keep allowing them to return to my heart? But here is the truth most people never realize. Not every person who stays in your heart is meant to stay in your life. Sometimes Allah keeps someone in your thoughts because there is still a lesson your soul has not learned yet. Sometimes the connection is exposing wounds you never healed. Sometimes the heartbreak is waking your heart up spiritually. And sometimes Allah removes someone because He knows your soul deserves peace that relationship could never give you. Tonight, we are going to talk about why some people cannot fully move on from each other, why certain hearts keep getting pulled back together emotionally, and the hidden Islamic truth about attachment, heartbreak, healing, and the people Allah removes from your life for a reason. Some souls leave a mark on your heart that time alone cannot erase. There are some people who enter your life quietly, without warning, without you realizing how deeply they will affect you. At first, they feel ordinary, just another conversation, just another person, just another connection. But slowly, they become part of your emotional world. Their voice becomes familiar to your heart. Their presence starts bringing comfort to your difficult days. You begin sharing parts of yourself you normally hide from everyone else. And before you realize it, your heart creates space for them inside you. That is why some people are impossible to forget easily. Because they were never just someone, they became emotionally connected to your everyday life. You started thinking about them in the morning. You waited for their messages at night. You imagined a future with them without even noticing it happening. And when someone becomes connected to your peace, your routines, your emotions, your hopes, their absence does not feel small. It feels like something inside your life suddenly went silent. And this is one of the strangest feelings a human being can experience, because sometimes your mind understands the separation, but your heart still reacts to their absence like they never truly left. You can spend weeks trying to move on. You tell yourself, it's over. I need to stop thinking about them. I have to let this go. But then one small thing happens. You hear a sentence they used to say. You visit a place that reminds you of them. You smell a familiar scent. You wake up from a dream where they were standing in front of you again, and suddenly every emotion returns at once. The heart becomes heavy. The chest feels tight. And for a moment, it feels like time never moved forward. Many people secretly suffer because of this. They become frustrated with themselves. They wonder, why am I still affected? Why can't I completely forget them? Why does my heart still react after all this time? But the truth is, some people touched your soul during seasons when you were emotionally open and vulnerable. Maybe they entered your life when you felt lonely. Maybe they gave you comfort during a painful time. Maybe they listened to struggles you never shared with anyone else. Maybe they made you feel seen when the world made you feel invisible. And hearts do not easily forget people who made them feel emotionally safe, especially when the connection felt sincere. This is why Islam teaches us to protect the heart carefully before becoming deeply attached, because emotional attachment is powerful. Once someone becomes tied to your soul emotionally, their absence can stay with you much longer than you expected. And sometimes the pain is not even about the person anymore. Sometimes it is about the emotional space they once filled inside you. That late night comfort, that feeling of being understood, that hope you built quietly in your heart. When those things disappear suddenly, the soul struggles to adjust, and many people try to force themselves to move on quickly because they feel weak for still caring. But healing is not a switch. The heart heals slowly, especially when the connection changed you deeply. And sometimes Allah allows certain people to leave marks on your heart because they were part of your growth. Not everyone enters your life to stay forever. Some people enter your life to teach you something about love. Some teach you something about yourself. Some expose wounds you never realized you carried. Some bring you closer to Allah after heartbreak humbles your soul, and some show you how deeply human beings can affect one another emotionally. That is why certain memories stay alive for years, not because you are broken, not because you are weak, but because some connections reach places inside the heart that ordinary people never touch. And maybe that is why Allah allows some souls to remain unforgettable, because even after they leave your life, the lessons they left behind continue shaping your heart forever. Allah keeps bringing them back into your mind until your heart learns what it was avoiding. One of the most confusing feelings in life is trying to forget someone, but somehow they keep returning to your mind again and again. You try to move forward. You stay busy. You distract yourself. You stop mentioning their name. You remove the old conversations. You tell yourself you are finally healing. And for a short moment, it feels like your heart is becoming lighter. But then suddenly, a random memory appears out of nowhere. You see someone who looks like them. You hear a sentence they used to say. You make dua at night, and somehow their face returns to your mind again. And deep inside, you begin wondering, why does this keep happening? Why can't I fully let go? Why does Allah keep allowing this person to return to my thoughts? Many people immediately assume it means they are meant for me, but sometimes the real answer is much deeper than that. Sometimes Allah keeps bringing someone back into your heart because there is still something inside you that has not healed yet. And this is difficult for many people to accept, because we often become emotionally attached without realizing how deeply dependent we have become. Sometimes the person was never just a person to you. They became your emotional comfort, your distraction from loneliness, your escape from pain, your source of validation, your feeling of being loved, your feeling of being important. And when they left, the pain felt unbearable because they were carrying emotional weight inside your life that only Allah should carry. That is why their absence shakes you so deeply. Not only because you miss them, but because you suddenly feel empty without the emotional comfort they once gave you. And this is where Allah begins teaching the heart one of the hardest lessons in life. No human being was created to become your entire source of peace, because humans are temporary. They change, they leave, they disappoint, they become distant. Sometimes they love you, sometimes they confuse you, sometimes they walk away while you are still emotionally attached to them. But Allah never leaves the believer who sincerely returns to Him. And sometimes heartbreak is the moment Allah shows you how much of your emotional security was built around another human being instead of Him. This is why some memories keep returning, not because Allah wants to torture you, but because He wants to expose what still controls your heart. Sometimes Allah keeps bringing someone back into your thoughts so you finally notice how emotionally dependent you became. You begin realizing your mood depended on their attention, your peace depended on their messages, your happiness depended on whether they stayed close to you, your emotional stability depended on how they treated you. And slowly, without noticing, your heart began placing creation in a position only Allah deserves. This is why some heartbreaks become spiritual wake-up calls, because pain reveals attachments the heart was hiding. And the frightening thing about emotional attachment is this: many people do not realize how attached they are until they lose access to the person completely. That is when anxiety appears. Overthinking begins. The chest feels heavy constantly. The mind replays old memories endlessly. You start checking whether they still care. You wonder if they moved on. You wonder if they miss you too. And without realizing it, your peace slowly becomes controlled by another human being. But Allah wants more for your heart than this kind of emotional prison. Allah does not want your soul destroyed every time a person changes. Allah wants your heart connected to something eternal, to Him. And this is why some people experience heartbreak so deeply, because Allah is not only removing a person from their life, He is teaching them emotional surrender, teaching them that love should never become worship, teaching them that no human being should hold complete power over their peace, teaching them that attachment without boundaries can slowly destroy the soul. And this lesson hurts. It hurts because the heart wants to hold on. The heart keeps replaying memories. It keeps imagining what if. It keeps hoping the person will return and fix everything. But sometimes Allah delays your healing because there is still something important your soul has not understood yet. Sometimes you are not truly missing the person anymore. You are missing who you became around them. You miss the comfort. You miss the attention. You miss the emotional closeness. You miss feeling chosen. You miss the future you secretly imagined in your mind. And this is why healing becomes difficult. Because you are not grieving one thing. You are grieving an entire emotional world that existed inside your heart. But eventually, Allah begins opening your eyes slowly. You start realizing that some people were never meant to complete you. They were meant to reveal parts of you that needed healing. Some exposed your fear of abandonment. Some exposed your loneliness. Some exposed your need for validation. Some exposed how quickly you lose yourself inside emotional attachment. And painful as it is, this realization can completely transform your life. Because once you learn how to place Allah at the center of your emotional world, people no longer have the same power to destroy your peace. You still love. You still care deeply. You still feel emotions, but your soul no longer collapses when human beings disappoint you. That is real healing. And maybe this is why Allah keeps allowing certain memories to return for a season. Not because your story is unfinished with that person, but because your heart is still unfinished with the lesson. Some people cannot move on because deep down they know they lost someone rare. One of the saddest truths in life is this: many people do not recognize the value of a sincere person until they lose access to them completely. While you were present, they became comfortable. They got used to your kindness, used to your patience, used to your loyalty, used to the way you always stayed emotionally available for them. They assumed your love would always be there, so they delayed effort. They became inconsistent. They gave mixed signals. Sometimes they disappeared emotionally, while expecting you to remain loyal emotionally. And because you cared deeply, you tolerated things your heart never truly deserved. You kept understanding them. You kept forgiving them. You kept hoping they would finally realize your value before it was too late. But often, people only wake up emotionally after absence enters their life. And this is why some people cannot move on, because after losing you, they finally feel the silence you used to protect them from. The late-night conversations disappear. The emotional comfort disappears. The feeling of being understood disappears. And suddenly, life feels different. They still smile around others. They still pretend to move forward. They still distract themselves with work, friends, entertainment, or new people. But deep inside, your absence keeps echoing in places they cannot silence. Because sincere people are rare, and deep down, they know it. They remember the way you cared when nobody else did, the way you checked on them during difficult moments, the way you listened carefully when they felt mentally exhausted, the way your presence brought emotional safety into their life. And now they begin meeting people who may be attractive, interesting, funny, or exciting, but do not carry the same sincerity your heart carried. That is when regret slowly begins growing. And regret is a very heavy feeling, because once someone realizes they lost a genuine soul, their heart starts replaying everything differently. Suddenly, they remember the small things they ignored before. The effort you made quietly, the patience you showed during their difficult moods, the emotional support you gave even while struggling yourself, the loyalty you carried when they were emotionally inconsistent. And now, those memories begin haunting them, not because you were perfect, but because your sincerity was real, and real sincerity is difficult to replace. But here is something very important you must understand. Just because someone misses you does not automatically mean they are ready for you. This is where many people become emotionally trapped, because when someone returns emotionally or suddenly starts missing you deeply, the heart immediately wants to believe they finally changed. But missing someone and being capable of protecting their heart are two completely different things. Some people miss your presence while still carrying the same emotional immaturity that hurt you before. Some people feel lonely without you, but have not truly healed themselves. Some miss the comfort you gave them, but are still not capable of giving you emotional stability in return. And this is why Islam teaches us to think with both the heart and wisdom, because emotions alone can blind people. Many toxic relationships survive only because both people are emotionally attached, not because the connection is healthy. An attachment can make people return repeatedly to situations that continue breaking them. That is why not every reunion is mercy. Sometimes distance itself is mercy. Sometimes Allah allows someone to feel your absence, so they finally understand the value of sincerity. Because many people spend their lives chasing temporary excitement while overlooking peaceful, genuine souls standing directly in front of them until those souls leave. And then suddenly, they realize peace is hard to find. You see, Sincere people leave deep marks on others because sincerity touches the soul differently. Anyone can pretend to care in happy moments, but very few people stay sincere when life becomes difficult. Very few people continue loving gently after misunderstandings. Very few people remain patient when emotions become complicated. Very few people genuinely pray for your happiness even after separation. And when someone loses a person like this, their heart often cannot move on easily because something inside them knows, I lost someone rare. But sometimes the painful part is this: they realize it after they already damaged the connection beyond repair. And this happens often in life. People become blind while they still have access to blessings. Then once the blessing disappears, clarity finally arrives. That is why some people suddenly return after months. Some suddenly start checking on you again. Some begin thinking about you constantly after pretending they moved on completely. Because absence reveals value and silence exposes what comfort once existed. But if you are the one being remembered tonight, do not let someone's regret make you forget the pain you experienced too. Do not let loneliness convince you to reopen doors Allah closed for your protection. Because sometimes people miss you emotionally while still being unable to love you correctly. And your heart deserves more than temporary regret. Your heart deserves sincerity, stability, peace, effort, and emotional safety, not just someone realizing your worth after losing you. Because real love does not only appear after separation. Real love protects the heart while it still has the chance. If Allah keeps separating you from them, there is mercy hidden behind every closed door. One of the hardest things for the human heart to accept is this: sometimes the person you desperately want is the very person Allah is protecting you from. And this truth becomes painful because emotions can make us blind. When we love someone deeply, we start holding on to hope even when everything is falling apart. We ignore the confusion. We ignore the emotional pain. We ignore the constant anxiety. We ignore the red flags. We ignore how exhausted our soul has become. Because attachment keeps whispering, maybe things will change. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe if I try harder, the relationship will finally work. But sometimes Allah keeps closing the door because He sees what your emotions refuse to see. And this is where many people struggle emotionally, because the heart keeps fighting for something while Allah keeps removing it repeatedly. The conversations stop unexpectedly. The timing never works. Misunderstandings continue growing. Distance increases. Peace disappears. The relationship becomes emotionally draining, yet the heart still wants to force everything back together. Why? Because emotionally attached hearts often fear letting go more than they fear suffering. And this is dangerous, because sometimes people become so addicted to emotional attachment that they start calling pain love. They think, if it hurts this much, it must be real. But pain alone does not prove something is meant for you. Sometimes pain is a warning, and many people do not realize this until years later. You see, real love may test you, but it should not constantly destroy your peace. Real love should not leave you emotionally broken every single day. It should not make you lose your self-respect. It should not pull you away from Allah. It should not fill your chest with constant anxiety, confusion, fear, and emotional exhaustion. But attachment can become so powerful that people start normalizing suffering. They stay in situations that slowly damage their soul because they are afraid of losing the person emotionally. And this is why Allah sometimes separates people repeatedly, not because He is punishing them, but because He is protecting them from a future their emotions cannot see clearly yet. Allah sees the conversations you never heard. Allah sees the intentions hidden inside hearts. Allah sees emotional damage before it fully arrives. Allah sees how certain people may slowly destroy your peace over time. And because Allah loves His servants, sometimes He removes what they keep begging to hold on to. This is one of the deepest forms of mercy. But unfortunately, human beings often misunderstand mercy. We think mercy always feels soft and beautiful. Sometimes mercy arrives through heartbreak. Sometimes mercy arrives through separation. Sometimes mercy arrives through unanswered prayers. Sometimes mercy arrives through closed doors that leave us crying at night. But years later, many people finally look back and realize, if Allah had given me exactly what I wanted back then, it would have destroyed me. And this realization changes everything, because suddenly you understand that Allah was protecting your future while your emotions were only focused on the present moment. The human heart often sees attachment as love, but Allah sees the full reality. That is why some relationships collapse, no matter how desperately people try to save them, no matter how many chances they give each other, no matter how many emotional conversations happen, no matter how many promises are made, because some connections are built on emotional dependency instead of peace, and emotional dependency creates fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of silence, fear of losing attention, fear of being replaced. This kind of love slowly drains the soul. But Allah did not create love to imprison your heart emotionally. Allah created love to bring sakina, peace, mercy, emotional safety, not endless emotional chaos. And this is where many people become confused, because toxic attachment often feels intense. It feels powerful, obsessive, emotionally consuming. You think about the person constantly. You feel anxious without them. Your emotions rise and fall depending on how they treat you. And because the feelings are strong, you assume the connection must be special. But intensity is not always love. Sometimes intensity is trauma. Sometimes it is loneliness. Sometimes it is emotional addiction. Sometimes it is the fear of being alone. And this is why some people spend years fighting for relationships that continue breaking them emotionally. Their heart keeps saying, "I cannot live without them," while their soul quietly keeps becoming more exhausted. But Allah hears the exhaustion your heart hides from everyone else. Allah sees the tears you cry silently at night. Allah sees the anxiety you pretend not to feel. Allah sees how much emotional pain you are carrying trying to force something that no longer brings peace. And sometimes Allah removes someone because He knows your future self will thank Him later, even if your current self cannot understand it yet. And one of the most painful parts of healing is realizing this. You were not fighting to keep the relationship alive. You were fighting to keep the emotional fantasy alive. The future you imagined together, the version of them you hoped they would become, the emotional comfort you once felt, the dream your heart secretly built around them. But fantasies can blind people to reality. That is why some people stay emotionally attached to relationships long after the peace has disappeared, because they are holding on to hope, not reality. And eventually Allah teaches the heart something powerful. What is truly written for you will never require you to destroy yourself to keep it. Real love will not constantly make you feel emotionally unsafe. Real love will not repeatedly confuse your worth. Real love will not force you to beg for consistency, effort, respect, and care. And if Allah keeps separating you from someone, if every path keeps collapsing, if peace keeps disappearing, if your heart keeps feeling emotionally shattered, then maybe the separation itself is mercy. Maybe Allah is protecting your soul from pain you cannot fully see yet. And maybe one day, years from now, you will look back at the relationship that once broke your heart and quietly whisper, "Ya Allah, thank you for not giving me everything I begged you for." What Allah truly writes for you will never cost you your peace, dignity, or connection with Him. One of the biggest mistakes people make in love is believing they must suffer endlessly to prove their feelings are real. So they keep chasing, keep begging, keep waiting, keep tolerating pain that slowly destroys their emotional peace. And because they love deeply, they convince themselves that losing their peace is normal. But it is not. Islam never teaches us to destroy ourselves emotionally for the sake of another human being. Yes, love can test the heart. Yes, relationships require patience. Yes, difficult moments exist in every connection. But there is a difference between healthy struggle and emotional destruction. There is a difference between loving someone and losing yourself trying to keep them. And many people do not notice this happening until their soul becomes completely exhausted. At first, they only make small sacrifices. They ignore little red flags. They stay quiet about things hurting them. They keep forgiving behaviors that continue breaking their heart because they are afraid. Afraid the person will leave. Afraid of losing the connection. Afraid of being alone again. So slowly, their emotional world starts revolving around one human being. Their mood depends on how that person behaves. Their peace depends on receiving attention. Their happiness depends on whether the relationship feels stable that day. And without realizing it, they hand their emotional stability to someone who was never meant to control it. This is why so many people feel emotionally shattered inside relationships, because they are no longer loving with balance. They are surviving emotionally through attachment. And attachment without peace becomes dangerous. It turns love into fear. It turns connection into anxiety. It turns affection into emotional exhaustion. You start overthinking constantly. You keep checking if the person still cares. You feel anxious when they become distant. You replay conversations in your mind for hours. You lose sleep over their silence. And eventually, you stop recognizing yourself emotionally. Your smile becomes weaker. Your connection with Allah becomes weaker. Your heart becomes heavy all the time. But because you still love them, you keep holding on. And this is where Allah teaches one of the deepest lessons about love. What is truly written for you should never require you to destroy your soul to keep it. The right person will not constantly leave you emotionally confused. The right person will not repeatedly make you feel unwanted, insecure, and emotionally unsafe. The right person will not force you to beg for effort, honesty, care, consistency, or basic respect. Real love protects the heart. It does not slowly crush it. And many people understand this too late because they confuse emotional intensity with destiny. They think, if I feel this strongly, it must be meant to be. But feelings alone are not enough. Sometimes the strongest feelings come from unhealthy attachment. Sometimes obsession disguises itself as love. Sometimes loneliness makes people emotionally addicted to the attention of someone who keeps hurting them. And this is why peace matters so much in Islam. Because Allah describes love and marriage with tranquility, with mercy, with emotional safety, not constant emotional chaos. The right connection may challenge you sometimes, but deep inside, your soul will still feel protected. You will not constantly feel like you are fighting for your worth. And this is something many people need to hear tonight. You should never have to lose your dignity to keep someone in your life. If you constantly have to chase them, prove yourself to them, beg for clarity, accept disrespect, ignore your emotional pain, sacrifice your peace, while they continue hurting your heart carelessly, then your soul is carrying a weight Allah never wanted you to carry. Because real love does not require humiliation. Real love does not make you feel emotionally disposable. And one of the saddest things in life is watching sincere people slowly abandon themselves, trying to keep someone who was never protecting their heart properly. They stop setting boundaries. They stop respecting their own emotions. They keep excusing toxic behavior because they are scared of losing the connection. And eventually, they become emotionally exhausted without understanding why. It is because the soul becomes tired when it stays in places where peace no longer exists. Allah did not create your heart to live in constant emotional fear. Allah did not create your soul to spend every day anxious about whether someone will finally choose you. What Allah writes for you will arrive with dignity, not desperation, with clarity, not endless confusion, with emotional safety, not constant emotional instability. And this does not mean perfect relationships exist. No human being is perfect. But there is a huge difference between imperfect love and emotionally damaging love. One brings growth and peace. The other slowly destroys your spirit. And many people only realize this after finally letting go. At first, letting go feels impossible. The heart panics. The loneliness feels unbearable. The memories become louder. You keep wondering if you made the wrong decision. But slowly, something unexpected begins happening. Your chest feels lighter. Your mind becomes quieter. You stop crying every night. You stop living in constant anxiety. You start reconnecting with yourself again. You start reconnecting with Allah again. And for the first time in a long time, your soul begins breathing peacefully again. That is when many people realize, I was not fighting for love anymore. I was fighting against the fear of letting go. And fear can keep people trapped in painful situations for years. But Allah wants peace for your heart, not emotional imprisonment. That is why some people leave your life, even when you loved them deeply. Because Allah knows some connections would continue draining your soul if they remained. And maybe one of the strongest forms of faith is trusting that if Allah removes something from your hands, He can still place something far more peaceful in your future. So never think losing someone means you lost everything. Sometimes losing the wrong person is the first step toward finding yourself again. And sometimes the greatest blessing Allah gives you is finally freeing your heart from what was quietly destroying it. Allah pulls hearts back and forth to remind us that no heart belongs to anyone except Him. At the end of the day, no human being truly controls the heart. Not you, not the person you love. not the person trying to forget you. Only Allah controls hearts. And this is why emotions can feel so confusing sometimes. A person can try everything to move on, yet your memory still returns to them suddenly. They can stay busy all day, laugh with other people, pretend they are completely healed. But then one quiet night changes everything. A memory appears, a feeling returns. Your name enters their heart again without warning, and suddenly all the emotions they tried to bury rise back to the surface. Because hearts are strange, sometimes they hold on to people longer than the mind understands. And this is why Islam constantly reminds us that hearts belong to Allah alone. Allah turns hearts however He wills. He creates love. He removes love. He softens hearts. He hardens hearts. He reconnects people. He separates people. And sometimes Allah allows hearts to keep remembering each other, not because the story is meant to continue forever, but because there is still a lesson hidden inside the connection. You see, many people spend their whole lives emotionally attached to creation. They depend on people for happiness, depend on people for emotional peace, depend on people for validation, depend on people to feel worthy, loved, or complete. And without realizing it, their heart slowly becomes emotionally controlled by human beings. That is why heartbreak hurts so deeply, because when the person leaves, everything emotionally collapses. The peace disappears, the emotional comfort disappears, the imagined future disappears, the daily routines disappear, and suddenly the soul feels lost. But sometimes, Allah allows this emotional shaking because He wants the heart to finally return back to Him completely, not halfway, not occasionally, completely. Because Allah knows something the human heart forgets very easily. No person was created to carry the weight of your entire soul. Humans are temporary. Even the people who love you deeply are still human. They can become distant. They can disappoint you. They can misunderstand you. They can change suddenly. They can leave while you are still emotionally attached. But Allah never abandons the servant who sincerely turns back to Him. And maybe this is why some heartbreaks transform people spiritually. Because pain humbles the heart. Pain breaks illusions. Pain exposes emotional dependence. Pain forces people to realize how fragile human love can be. And during those lonely nights, many people finally start speaking to Allah differently. Not with rehearsed words, but with broken honesty. For the first time, they cry sincerely in sujood. For the first time, they ask Allah for peace, instead of only asking for people. For the first time, they realize no human being can calm the soul the way Allah can. And this is where true healing begins. Not when the person returns, not when the relationship finally works, not when the apology arrives, but when your peace stops depending completely on another human being. That is real emotional freedom. When your heart still knows how to love deeply, but no longer collapses when humans fail you. And this changes everything inside a person. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing people who confuse your worth. You stop forcing relationships that keep draining your soul. You stop worshiping emotional attachment. Because your heart slowly learns, if Allah wants something for me, it will reach me without destroying me emotionally. And if Allah removes something from my life, then maybe my soul deserves something more peaceful than what I was trying to hold on to. This is one of the hardest lessons in life, because the heart naturally wants certainty from people. It wants guarantees. It wants forever. It wants reassurance that nobody will leave. But human beings cannot promise forever. Only Allah remains constant. And once a person truly understands this, their relationship with love changes completely. They still care deeply, still love sincerely, still value emotional connection, but they stop making human beings the center of their existence because they understand something powerful. When your heart depends completely on people, people gain the power to emotionally destroy you. But when your heart depends first on Allah, human disappointment no longer breaks you the same way. And maybe this is why Allah sometimes keeps pulling hearts back and forth emotionally, not to keep people trapped in pain forever, but to teach them where true peace actually comes from. Some people enter your life and become the reason you finally return to Allah sincerely, not because the relationship succeeded, but because the heartbreak awakened your soul. Some people make you realize how emotionally attached you became. Some expose the emptiness you were trying to fill through human love. Some force you to confront your fear of abandonment. Some teach you that your worth cannot depend on whether someone chooses you. And even though the experience hurts deeply, the lesson transforms your entire life. That is why certain people remain unforgettable, not always because they were your destiny, but because Allah used the connection to change something inside your soul forever. And maybe tonight, someone somewhere is trying to forget you, trying to silence your memory, trying to move on emotionally, trying to convince themselves they no longer care. But Allah keeps allowing your presence to return to their heart, because the lesson is still alive inside them. Because some people are not sent only for love. Some are sent to awaken hearts. Some are sent to humble souls. Some are sent to bring people closer to Allah after years of emotional distraction. And maybe the deepest form of healing is finally realizing this. The greatest love your heart will ever find is the peace that comes from belonging fully to Allah. Because once your soul finds peace with Him, no human being can completely destroy you anymore. And maybe tonight, there is someone somewhere trying very hard to forget you. They are forcing themselves to move on, forcing themselves to stay distracted, forcing themselves to act like your absence no longer affects them. But deep inside, your memory still lives quietly in their heart. Not because every love story is meant to last forever, but because some people leave lessons behind that the soul never fully forgets. And maybe you are carrying someone in your heart too. Maybe there are nights when you still think about them, still wonder why the connection felt so deep, still question why Allah allowed your paths to cross if everything was going to end this way. But perhaps the answer was never only about romance. Perhaps Allah used that connection to transform you, to humble your heart, to expose your wounds, to teach you the difference between attachment and peace, to bring you closer to Him after depending too heavily on people. Because sometimes the greatest thing Allah gives you through another person is not the relationship itself. It is the awakening that comes after the heartbreak. One day you may finally realize that the pain was not sent to destroy you. It was sent to guide you back to yourself, back to your peace, and most importantly, back to Allah. So if your heart is hurting tonight, if someone still lives in your thoughts, if you are struggling to let go, do not think Allah has abandoned you. Allah sees every tear you never explained to anyone. Allah hears every silent dua hidden inside your chest. Allah knows the weight your heart has been carrying. And maybe right now, while you are trying to understand the pain, Allah is already preparing the healing your soul desperately needs. Trust Him, because no matter who leaves your life, the heart that stays connected to Allah will never remain broken forever. And if this reminder touched your heart tonight, stay connected to this channel for more Islamic reminders that bring peace, healing, and closeness to Allah. May Allah heal every heart listening to this, replace your pain with peace, and write a love for you that never pulls you away from Him.